In Judges 21:25 it is written, "In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes." This period in Israel's history was marked by lawlessness and moral decay. Child sacrifices, worship at pagan altars, and the mistreatment of women were prevalent. A notable story from Judges 20 involves a Levite and his concubine. For context, a concubine was a woman who lived with a man but held a lower status than a wife. The existence of concubines itself was a sign of the moral decline of the time. The Levite and his concubine stopped in a city to rest. That night, the Levite became drunk with a local resident, and the men of the city took the concubine, leading to her death. This tragic story highlights the extent of the wickedness in Israel during this era. Despite God's laws, people acted according to their own desires, living in a culture of lawlessness. We too live in a time where sin is pervasive and easily accessible. Modern technology allows access to pornography from anywhere. News channels often showcase hatred, and medical procedures are available regardless of their impact on others. What was once considered wrong is now often accepted as right. Although we may not be as steeped in sin as the people of the Judges era, lawlessness is still rampant. Sin is cheap and readily available. Biblically, lawlessness refers to those who knowingly, deliberately, and willfully rebel against the laws of God and man. Many people might not even realize that lawlessness is as pervasive as the air we breathe. The Bible frequently addresses the concept of lawlessness. Laws are necessary to prevent chaos and maintain order. God's laws, often perceived as restrictive, are intended for our protection and benefit. For instance, the commandment against adultery safeguards our relationships. Loving our neighbors fosters positive community relationships. However, many people view these rules as limiting. We live in a time where God's laws are often ignored, which the Bible defines as lawlessness. An early example of this is found in the book of Judges. So how can Christians remain fervent in such a lawless society? Matthew 24:12 provides insight. And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. To combat lawlessness, we must ensure our love for God does not grow cold. This love is not general affection, but a deep, growing love for God that drives us away from darkness. Imagine being in a completely dark house. When you turn on a light, the darkness cannot overpower it. Similarly, love for God is the light that overshadows the desire for lawlessness. To stay fervent for God in a lawless time, we must spend time with Him and allow His love to transform us. This involves prayer, reading the Word, and engaging in Christian community. If we neglect these practices, we risk our love growing cold. Have you ever had a day where everything feels like a struggle? On such days, call out to the Lord. David often did this in the Psalms, crying out to God in distress. Psalm 5:1-2 says, "Listen to my words, Lord, consider my lament. Hear my cry for help, my King and my God, for to you I pray." David's example encourages us to call on the Lord in our struggles. In times of fear and anxiety, remember that God is in control. Jesus instructs us not to worry about our lives, but to seek God's kingdom first. Matthew 6:25-33. Trust in God's sovereignty, for He is already in the future, working for our good. Fear, described as false evidence appearing real, blinds us to God's promises. Instead of succumbing to fear, rely on God's strength and guidance. Isaiah 41:10 reassures us, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Our lives should be guided by faith, not fear. When facing obstacles, trust in God, not people. God is always seeking those fully committed to Him. In moments of overwhelming difficulty, call out to Jesus. Blind Bartimaeus did this in Luke 18:37-38. crying out for Jesus' mercy. When surrounded by challenges, pray for God to open your eyes to his protection and presence, as Elisha did for his servant in 2 Kings 6:17-18. When tired and frustrated, turn to prayer and praise. Only Jesus can give true rest and renewal. Call on him in every situation, trusting in his promises. Isaiah 65:24 assures us, "Before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear." Psalm 50:15 also promises, "Call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you shall glorify me." Trust in God in times of trouble. Abide in him for restoration and seek him for rest. Let your hope be found in God, who has the perfect solution for every situation. Acts 2:17 speaks of God's promise to pour out his Spirit in the last days. Pray for this outpouring, ensuring your heart remains open to Jesus' call. Don't let busyness or distractions